Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 93 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, December 3rd, and we have got a guest this week. We got basketball that got played this week, and we're gonna talk about that. But we've got a guest this week that since the season started, actually, since I heard that he took the coaching job that he took this year, somebody I've been wanting to talk to. Craig Carr is joining us. He is the girls basketball coach at Altamont High School this year. He is no stranger to local athletics at various different school districts, but he is at Altamont. He took that job this year when it came open. And Craig, first of all, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure, Dustin. I appreciate you and Mike having me tonight.
But yeah, that Altamont job was really interesting to me when I found out that Katie wasn't going to do it anymore. I was really curious to see who ended up there, and then when I heard that you got it, I just thought that was really fascinating, and it's an interesting situation to step into for a number of reasons, and so thought we need to get that guy on here. And so Mike did what he does. He got a hold of you. You were nice enough to join us, and here we are. So you know, obviously you take a job. Well, first of all, let's start with the basics. How's it going so far? You and I kind of talked before we started recording, but you tell me how's it been for the first couple weeks of practice and then the first 3 weeks of games or so?
Uh, Been a lot of fun. Super group of young ladies. We had a really good summer to start and had great attendance. The kids were really invested this summer, I thought, and we've got 20 kids in the program, so that's really exciting. Four seniors, great leadership, five juniors, and three sophomores and eight freshmen in our freshman class. So, really excited about the numbers and about just the real kind of just the excitement right now. Kids want to be involved in our program, and when they're around at practice, they've gotten along so well, supported each other so well, supported me, given me feedback. I couldn't have asked for a better start, honestly.
And obviously, part of the appeal of taking that job is that you have a very special player in the senior class there. Grace Nelson's there for her senior year. She's going to go play at Illinois State next year. That's already been settled, and she's obviously for a girls program in a small school, a generational type of player, right? One that doesn't come along very often, and so I'm sure that when this opportunity came about, that's a big part, getting a chance to step in and coach a player that everybody talks about, that everybody around the area knows and is familiar with and respects.
Yeah, no question. I'd seen Grace play in our tournament at Newton since she was a freshman, of course, and read a lot, and I knew what kind of player she was. But this summer, when she was still continuing to rehab, I learned about what kind of kid she is, because she could have easily just said, "Hey, I'll see you in November," but she didn't. She was at every open gym, every game we played this summer. She was my assistant this summer, and we had a great time on the bench. I got to know her a little bit. She got to know some things about what I like to see. And as a kid in her shoes, I can only imagine being in her shoes and having that many sets of eyes on you every day, every night out. She handles it, pardon the pun, with such grace. She works her tail off. Give you an example. I somehow have continued the tradition of washing uniforms, looking to get rid of that, but still doing it. And After the Newton game, obviously wasn't completely of my right mind. I forgot the uniforms at school. So on Thanksgiving morning, I went over there to grab them, and I pulled in the parking lot at 8 o'clock, and Grace's car was there. And that's the kind of kid she is. She had already lifted at 7, and she was in the gym getting some shots up at 8. And we had a good chance to talk about the game before. And I mean, that just made my day. That's what kind of special kid she is. The commitment to her team first and foremost. And I've I've been around the coaches at Illinois State a little bit this fall, and they're really excited about Grace coming up next summer or next year, and they should be. Fantastic kid.
Now, if I was a good interviewer, which I'm not a great interviewer, I'm an okay interviewer, I would give you a chance, first of all, to kind of give us your resume a little bit. I mean, I said you're not a stranger to athletics in the area, but you've been around the block a few times in various different capacities. So being in charge of a program, not necessarily a new thing for you.
I guess I've been a little bit of a rolling stone. Yeah. Just retired from Newton High School as the athletic director and guidance counselor. Spent the last 5 years doing that. Was able to be selected to take Doug Mimoser's place. So replaced a legend right there in the athletic directorship.
Friend of the show.
First
Yep,
off,
and
that's a very loose word usage of the term legend. I will say that.
I understand, but he helped me out a lot. And he, that was a lot of fun over the last 5 years. Bottom line is, our programs won a lot. I mean, we had a lot of success. I was fortunate enough to be Troy Bierman's JV coach, so I got to keep my hand in the basketball, and that was a lot of fun too. We won a lot of games, and Troy has gotten better every year. Won more games every year, won more big games every year. Last year, the LIC tournament, we beat 3 quality opponents, last one being Alney on their home floor. So ton of fun, ton of exciting times the last 5 years, especially as part of Troy's basketball staff. So yeah, I've been in the area for 32 years. My first job was at St. Anthony High School out of college, and then was a principal of Sacred Heart after that, and then went to Newton after that to be an administrator. And I'm back in Effingham.
Yeah,
We live in Effingham, and have for last 7 years, and we love the area. My wife's from Effingham, so been great ride.
Craig, when was your first year at St. Anthony? I couldn't do the math in my head there.
Yeah, that's all right. Fall of '92.
Okay, that's right.
Yep.
I guess I did have a question. Have you installed Dave Bartlett's full court press breaker yet?
Opposite side base. No, not yet. But I know. But I tell you, I learned a lot from Dave. And I tell you, Will, you'll think this is funny, but I've gotten sentimental with the guy 2 or 3 times, and he gets mad at me every time. But I wouldn't have the family I have if he hadn't hired me. I had a job offer at Niantic Harristown with Randy Moss, who I'm sure you know. And I had interviewed with Dave thanks to Bob Trimble, our high school basketball coach at Monticello. It's not what you know, it's who you know. He hooked me up with Dave. And I called Dave. I said, "Hey, I got a job offer." And he said, "Man, I'm not done interviewing yet." He goes, "I like it, but I can't answer yet." And I called Randy back. I said, "I can't take it, man. I got to wait," because I knew St. Anthony was a good place to be just after talking to Dave, and it worked out. So I owe that gentleman a lot, and he's had a very distinguished career as an administrator.
And it's funny because I didn't prompt you. We didn't talk beforehand. I mean, opposite side base, I've tweaked it a little in my days of coaching. He would have been proud to know that my years at T-Town, on Andy's bench. We ran that effectively with a little tweaking, and you know, his coaching tree lives on. No, I mean that was my first 4 years were under Dave, and oh yeah, he I learned so much, and he's. I don't think he got the credit for being as good a basketball coach as he was, to be honest. I know that comes off sometimes, but you know, when you had to run into Ken Crawford almost every postseason, I mean, literally every postseason, people say, "Oh, he didn't." No, Dave was very, very good at what he did. He really was.
Yeah. I'll tell you one of the things that I thought about immediately the first time I walked into Altamont's gym was Brian Schultz's 4-point play against T-Town our first year. And that was in the semis of the NTC.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Windsor in the championship. But yeah, great memories from back then.
So you talked about having really solid numbers in the Altamont program. And this is another thing that we chatted about a little bit before we started recording, but obviously when Grace got hurt last year, their season came, the back half of the season, not a lot of fun for Altamont. They just, if you lose your leading scorer and your leader on the court, it's going to be a struggle. But looking up and down the roster, it looks like pretty much everybody's back, and you talked about everybody being bought in and enthusiastic. So I'm sure that was good to see, because you're never sure what you're going to walk into, coming off of a tough end to the year. But I also know that you bring a certain enthusiasm to it. That's my understanding. That's what I see through social media and stuff. You're when you're in it 110%. That seems to be your attitude.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I think the kids deserve it. Thankfully, thanks to the state of Illinois and Jasper County Schools, I've got the time to do it. And, the kids, I'll tell you, watching film from last year, they still battle. I mean, and that's something that I realized right away. After Grace, after her season ended, they played, half the season without her, and they still battled. And that's a credit to Katie, credit to the kids. And I knew there was talent there and character. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've seen so far. Great character. This hasn't been, just the smoothest transition, just because there's been a lot of new terminology and not a lot of new philosophy maybe. And, they're working at it. They still believe that we can do great things. And I'm, lucky. I'm lucky to be there. I can't say that enough. I mean, lucky to be around a kid like Grace for sure, but also around the 19 other kids. Sure. I mean, some high character kids, bright kids, all 20 on the honor roll first quarter. So I can't say enough about the opportunity, and appreciate the administration at Altamont believing in me for sure.
Yeah, and those other kids, I mean, they got to be talked about, right? Like, I know that you've got the headliner, right? And I'm guilty of it too. The first question I ask you is about Grace Nelson, and that's natural. But obviously, things don't happen. Games don't get won unless you've got that full cast of characters, and people embrace the roles that they play in a program. So that's as a big part of the puzzle as anything, right? I mean, the star player is going to do what the star player does, but making sure everybody else is on board and getting everybody going in the right direction, that's the coaching job that happens here.
Yeah, I think so. And obviously one kid isn't going to win basketball games. One kid's not going to defend 5 other kids. That's something we've talked about a lot, the defensive end. And I think, the kids appreciate Grace's ability, and I also think they appreciate the kind of teammate she is, because she involves them. And she's more than a willing passer.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that's a credit to her also. And, she does that because she trusts him.
Mhm.
She posted my last first practice with my girls with the other three seniors, and they've been together since whatever, like third grade. So it's neat to see that kind of bond that those kids have, and fortunate to be a part of it.
And
Craig, I'm curious. You've talked about, with the different terminologies. I mean, a lot of changes. I mean, you may call an out of bounds play X where before they ran it as Y, and
Yeah.
seeing the kids adapt to those changes. And well, we did it this way in the past, which is great input sometimes.
Yeah.
However, here's how we're going to do it now, because this is, I mean, yeah, there's some melding on occasion, but so that learning curve has been, pretty quick. And I guess the big advantage, having them together in the summer was huge.
Yeah, no question. And great attendance in the summer, like I said. But just an example, our foul call is punch. And somebody says, I thought it was fire. And they said, that's what it was last year. And, I probably should have just adapted some of their old calls to what we're doing now. That would, in
Right.
retrospect, probably been a smart thing to do. But haven't really done that. So they've had a tough task of learning a lot of things, and a lot of, like I said, terminology, what our man full call is and our switching call is. And it's just a lot, man. I mean, there's a lot to learn. And that's another great thing about these seniors, man. They help each other and they help the younger kids. They are constantly talking and constantly affirming things and echoing things I say, and proud of that.
Right. And to be honest, yeah, like you said, you could have easily adapted and used some old calls. But the thing is, probably first half of the season, in the heat of the battle, mentally, your brain's now going, hey, it's punch, it's punch. And kids are going to be like, wait, so that's hard. I think, I mean, it's harder for a coach to change even some of those calls like that. You just have to,
Yeah,
hey, here's how we're going to do it now.
especially one as dull-minded as me. So, yeah, I wouldn't have that kind of memory.
did you have any apprehension about taking over a program? I mean, you said you've been on the bench at Newton, but it's obviously a different animal being at the top of the heap, right? Being the guy. I mean, was there anything about it that concerned you, or were you, when you saw it was open, was it pretty much I gotta do this?
Pretty quickly, I realized I wanted to do it. I'm 55, so I feel like I'm still pretty young. I love basketball. I love the basketball in the area. I felt like, I still can relate to kids fairly well. I hadn't, people have asked me, you ever coach girls before? I'm like, yeah, 10 and 12 and under softball, and my little kid was in there. So that's been a little bit different, but not too much. They want to learn. That's the bottom line. They want to learn. And as long as they want to learn, they're going to take constructive criticism. An example of that is we watch film. The film doesn't lie. You know, if it's good, we point it out. If it's not good, we point it out. They take it like champs and move on and learn from it. But go ahead.
No, I was going to ask who's on your staff with you? Who's coaching with you there?
Yeah. My JV coach is Chris Guzzi,
Okay.
an Altamont guy.
Mhm.
Actually, was Katie's JV coach, and I had a phone conversation with Chris and asked him if he'd stick around. And he graciously agreed to do that, and the kids love Chris. Chris is a player's coach. He can be as demanding as anybody, but the girls will always come back for more instruction from Chris. I think, lucky to have him around for sure. And frankly, I'm looking forward to getting more and more input from Chris as we go along. I think he's got a lot to offer. Our fresh soft coach is a young lady named Rachel Hammer.
Okay.
Originally from Champaign, went to Champaign Central, played there, but married a young fellow from Altamont and moved south, and has been a great addition to our staff. Really, when she got hired this fall, I felt like that was just kind of the last piece to our puzzle that we needed. And she has been a great resource for players, great communicator. So really excited about Chris and Rachel and the chance I've got to work with them for sure. I'm glad you asked me that. Thanks.
And then, early in the season, you got 4 wins against a couple of losses, but you're playing, and you talk about the basketball in the area. Well, the basketball in the area being so good means that the schedule is going to be challenging, right? You go over to the Bob Kearns tournament, you're going to play Effingham in a really good Newton team this year. Diederich is having a nice year. You handled them, but that's one of the few losses they have. You beat Windsor Stew Straws. They haven't lost very many games. That's been there's been some challenges, and even in the losses, it looks like the competition level for your team has been pretty solid.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And I mean, Effingham's going to win a ton of games.
Yeah.
I know they got beat recently by Taylorville, but they're talented and deep. And if it wasn't for the lack of making some adjustments in the second quarter of that game, we could have won that game. And then playing Newton on their home floor, they were juiced up and did a super job on Grace. And once again, like we talked before, we didn't make enough adjustments. So, the NTC, even though some programs don't have great numbers, the varsity teams are all pretty darn competitive.
Yeah.
I've seen about 2/3 of them play. I mean, Windsor Stu Strauss and Brian, they gave us a great battle at Altamont. That night it was a super crowd. It was a lot of fun. And, same with, at Dietrich, good crowd. The area is really lucky right now to have some great young ladies playing basketball. And the NTC is a really solid 1A conference.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's some pretty good star power in there for a small school conference. You look at Windsor, you look at Diederich, they both have some individuals who can put up some huge numbers. Really, there's 5-6 teams in the conference you can say that about, maybe more. It's fun, but I'm sure it's not always fun to be on the other end of the floor from it, at least in the moment. Maybe after you have a chance to reflect on it, you can appreciate it, but probably in the moment, it's like, man, I wish Milo Gritton would score a few, not so many points tonight.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're going to get a lot of people's best shots.
Sure.
And that's a good thing. That means we're someplace close to where we need to be.
Yep.
And obviously we haven't even mentioned St. Anthony, but we get them tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Another road game, and I've seen them play in person twice. And talented, great 1-2 punch with Bonder, Hyde, and Ruhal, and they got some complementary players. Obviously, they're well coached. Coach Rios has been there for a while. His system looks solid. Their 1-3-1 is tough. So, right now, that's going to be a great challenge for us tomorrow night at Enloe.
Sure, and you talk about getting everybody's best shot. That means that it challenges you as a coach too, because you see those things. You mentioned Newton using a box and one against you. I'm sure there's going to be your fair share of I don't want to say gimmick defenses, but out of the box type of stuff to try and slow down your number one option, and that makes you go a little deeper in your own personal well as far as what to tell the girls and how to get them to deal with it.
Sure. And, we're 6 games in, you
Mhm.
know, I mean, it's a long season. I mean, we got 30 dates and then the postseason. So, um, we want to be playing well in January and February.
Mhm.
That's the goal. By the time the NTC tournament rolls around, we need to be clicking. And to expect, um, us to beat everybody by 30, that's just not going to happen.
Sure.
There's too many good teams around, and they're going to play as hard as they can. And, we got to just get better every time out. That's all that matters, is that we're always improving, getting a little bit better each day. We had a really solid week of practice this week. Of course, lost a game versus KZ
Yeah.
because of the numbers issues, but we're still able to have 4 good practices last week. And, like you said, I'm lucky to have Chris and Rachel around. The more we're together, the more we're going to be able to share ideas and come up with adjustments and things like that. So that's something that you're right. Between games, in games, that's what a coach's job is. Make adjustments to what's happening on the floor and help the team be more successful. I mean, when you got kids like we do that are going to play as hard as they can and do what they're asked, then that's the only thing left is the coaching. So you're right.
And especially when you've got a player of that level, Greg, I know you're going to see, you know, Whitey didn't want to say junk defense, but you're going to see a lot of junk defense. That's what as
Yeah.
a coach calls it. Trust me, I love using junk defenses when you could, because you get people out of their norm.
I saw you have great success with it sometimes.
And it's got to be to the point where you almost, you know, hey, we embrace a box and one or a triangle and two, or where the two is on one. I've seen those things. So
Yeah.
Going in, yeah, we can see this or that. We're going to work on this or that. We're going to, but it gives you a lot of times to try and practice different things against it. Okay, well, this might, I didn't like how that looked. I didn't like how we reacted to it. But, when those things are done, there's a lot of opportunity. It's just other kids stepping up and exploiting the opportunity when it becomes available.
Yeah. I mean, specifically with a box and one, the easy thing to do is just run Grace off a bunch of screens. And we have a couple of kids that are more than willing to set screens. And, that's all well and good. And the more a kid gets screened, philosophically, the kid is gonna slow down a little bit. However, we don't want our kid running all over the place all night either, especially when a lot of times we ask her to guard the other team's best guard. So sometimes she's going to have to be the screener. Sometimes we're going to have to run just a regular man offense and get some action out of that. And, obviously finding our second and third scorers is going to be important. And that's something that we're still working on. We've got a lot of options, I think. We got 8 or 9 kids that can play. So, yeah, I anticipate seeing that quite a bit. And, we've got some options. So,
Sure.
Just a matter of implementing those.
And you've had some kids step up and have some big games in several. I mean, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different other girls who've had double figure scoring outputs at different points in the season. So it's there. It's just a matter of convincing them, hey, you can do this. You can do this more than once. Like, that doesn't have to be a one-off. That can be like, that can be a regular thing.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dustin. I mean, like we talked before, Claire Bame had 13 against Effingham hit 3 huge threes in the second half, a tough left-handed finish in the lane, took 2 charges. I told her we gotta have that killer out there every chance you get. Because she was a killer that night. She was fearless, and we got Peyton Osteen, the seniors, been there, done that. Great shooter. So our post play, Kaylee Lurkins, works hard. Obviously, a threat in the paint, a presence for sure. Brianna Grunlow, another senior, has been very consistent from mid-range and from 3 at points in time. And so we've definitely got some options. Kylie Osteen has been playing in the post a little bit for us. Outside's in there, does a super job defensively. Libby Reardon missed a little time, but is back now, a super defender, a willing passer. We got all kinds of options. Skyly Klein had maybe the best summer out of anybody this past summer shooting the ball for us. And, a bigger kid, sees the floor pretty well. So, we definitely have options. It's just a matter of getting them in the right places where they're going to be successful and feel confident.
Right. Mike, you got anything? I'm kind of hogging this. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I want to go back with, when, Craig mentioned, sometimes you got to use Grace as a screener. And I think that's huge because especially most teams are going to have this, base rule, or, we're going to switch all screens. A lot of people will do that. So now you create a quandary for them, and they, wait a minute, you're the person we're shutting down. We don't want to put a quote lesser defender or have someone from this zone, now have to jump out and take somebody, or they're going to come off the screen and get a wide open look. And I think those are the types of things that create a lot of problems. And you see a lot of people face that, and I think it's one of the last options they want to do is use that player as a screener, but it makes the other team adjust so much, and it makes other kids come off the screen, and hey, there's nobody here because they don't want to switch. And, you can create some good things. And plus, when, your player is willing to say, hey, I will set the screens because I know in the long run that's going to come back and benefit me, but it's also going to free up my teammates to do something a little different. So, great approach and some things. Difference. You coached, you said 10 and under softball, a little different though. 10 and under softball, you don't get too hot under the collar at halftime, maybe when you're not performing as well. So,
well, you should.
Have you scarred your tongue? That's what I want.
My daughter may differ with that, but no, about the third day of practice, I flipped my lid for the first time. So I made about 2.5 practices, and I hate to say it, but they really responded. They weren't talking, they weren't communicating, and man, after that, we haven't had a problem with that since. So they're quick learners. I look at it, that when I was a kid, that was my go-to. Just flip my lid. I look back and think, God, I wish I could do all that over again. Great teachers don't do that. When I see great teachers in the classroom, they're not doing that. They're instructing. They're building confidence. And, so no, it is quite the same as 10 and under softball, but, I've learned for sure over the years, and girls can play and girls want to learn, and sometimes girls don't think they know everything already, to be completely honest with you, and that's refreshing.
That's only when they become wives that they learn that they know everything.
No comment.
Yeah. Sitting that one out. We'll leave Mike on an island there.
That's all right. Not the first time I've been on an island.
It's I mean, you talk about it like it's so easy, but it's not easy to keep your cool in the moment. You know, if you've said a thing a few times and you feel like it should be sinking in and everybody's there to play, then I mean, I get it. And that applies. I've only ever been in the 10 and under softball, so I can't really speak to anything else, but it's easier said than done to stay balanced and cool in the moment.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, we talked about you know Coach Bartlett, guys I've worked with in the past. The best ones use that technique selectively.
Mm-hmm.
That's obvious.
Hmm.
They don't wear it out because you know.
Because if you go to the
But
quote whip,
sometimes
you
you
do that
know,
too much, kids become callous to it, and it's not effective. You have to pick and choose
sure.
your moments
Oh,
to get your point
absolutely,
across.
absolutely. Dave was a master at that.
Yeah, they got to know that if the coach is actually PO'd, then we must have really screwed up. You know, it's I get that,
Yeah.
and it's the same with
Yep.
being a parent. You know, same with all
Yeah,
parts of life, really.
for sure. A lot of similarities between coaching and parenting, no
Yeah,
question.
Mike, what else you got?
Big week this week, postseason. Do you know who the hosts are yet, Craig?
I don't know. I know I've heard I talked to an athletic director on the boys side not too long ago that got the word that they're hosting and what they're hosting. So I know it's out there, but it hasn't been publicized yet.
Mhm.
So
Because you guys, regional
that
wise, you guys were in the same complex as St. Anthony, correct?
yeah, they have been in the past. For some of it, Altamont I think has gone south, and St. Anthony's gone north. But yeah, we'll just have to see how that works out.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And again, I mean, you've been around the area a long time. You know, kind of the tradition, and we always have teams making. Almost every sport, someone's making a deep run from the area.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
girls basketball is going to be the same this year. The opportunity is going to be there to be. We'll have some representation probably in sectional
Yep.
finals, and
Yeah.
we're blessed in this area for that. And then again, like I said, people like you who get involved and kind of dust off the old playbook, get it out of the, you've had that in that box, and Amy's wondered why in the hell have we kept that box all these years, and now we know.
That's plural, man. Boxes. Pile. It's more piles, Wills. It's more
Yeah, I
piles,
understand.
I have
Well,
to say.
I've got one right here that it's been moved, and then there's usually hey, get this taken care of, and I may throw one thing away out of it, and then it gets moved to another spot. So I understand.
Then I put it in a box. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
now I know Amy's been over. She's been helping Sammy James over Cumberland with the junior high girls. As do you get much feedback when you get home? Does she get her 2 cents in when you get home from the games?
Usually, if I ask, yeah, usually it's not unsolicited. Usually, she'll wait until I ask. But then when I do, she's a pretty talented scout.
Yeah,
Honestly, she can see some strengths and weaknesses not only in opponents but in our own team. So yeah, I'm lucky. I'm lucky, and it's been really cool to get to know Sammy a little bit, and of course her dad Seth. He's a legend in these parts. So been it's fun.
yeah, yeah. Sammy said that she's told me that Amy gives pretty solid scouting reports. Does nice work
Sure.
for her when she asks. So
I
that's awesome here.
I got to tell you that one of the best moments I've had in the last few years was her getting frustrated with me every time I got home from a game and flipping open the laptop until she did it a couple years ago. And then I got a good chuckle out of that. I said, film's pretty valuable, isn't it? So yeah, that's we both watch quite a bit of film. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, before we don't want to take too much more of Craig's evening. I know he's probably not done thinking about St. Anthony for the night, if I had to guess. But Mike, you got anything else? Anything else to toss in here?
No, that's good. Glad to see him back on the sidelines. And like I said, good luck tomorrow night. Gonna be a heck of a ball game. I'll probably be listening to Whitey and Matt Robinson waxing poetically on the air.
Awesome. Yeah.
And that works
Love
out
to hear
well.
it.
So it'll be fun. And hope to at least get to see you at some point. I think I did one or two Altamont girls games last year, at least one. I think earlier in the year. So
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, another thing besides the talent in the area, our local media, man, I I can't imagine there's any place the size of Effingham County that's as well represented as far as local media goes. And we're lucky in that way too. And besides, obviously, this podcast, but all the local radio and newspaper and social media coverage is super great for the kids.
Yeah, it's really it's a circular thing too, right? Like you've got great programs, great traditions, and I think that leads to people wanting to be around it, people like us wanting to talk about it, and it just it's the perfect storm, and you're part of it. You're part of it. You have been for a long time in one capacity or another, and glad to get a chance to talk to you. Really excited to see your team play tomorrow night. It's going to be fun. However it turns out, I'm looking forward to a fun battle.
Me too. Me too. And it's just another step for us to take, and it'd be a good chance to figure out exactly where we're at and what we need to do, where we need to go from there. So, be glad to have you guys there too, for sure. Thank you.
Craig, if I come to a game, I do want to hear you at some point on the sidelines be yelling opposite side base. That would make my evening. I changed I don't know. I think I forget. I changed the name because hell, that was too long to yell. So
yeah, well, yeah, that is. It is. It's an oldie but a goodie, man, for sure.
And I'll tell you what, it is effective. It really is.
It's hard to beat. And I tell you, you told me maybe you want a Bartlett story. The best one I have is we were at Stu Straw's and Jack Scott was an official, and he looked at Dave and he said, "I'll listen to you all night, but I'm not going to listen to him." And guess who he was pointing to?
Oh, yeah.
And so Dave then decided he was going to let me know that if I got a technical, I was fired. And I believe, trust me. So, oh man, so much fun back then. And NTC battles were just tooth and nail.
Back in the day, it was nuts.
T-Town,
I mean, heck yes, it was.
Oh, baby, it was. It was so much fun, but that's a good Dave Bartlett story I thought I'd leave you with.
You mentioned that Kirk Hacker when I was on Ronnie Nieberg's bench, and he said the same thing. He said, "Ronnie, I'll listen to you, but I ain't listening to the little coaches." And then the next year, my first game as head coach the following year, Hacker was the official. And we shake hands, and he knew it was coming. And I said, "Hey, Kirk, I'm a big coach now."
That sounds like something he'd say.
It was good. Yep. It fired me up for about 8 seconds, and then I started laughing.
All right. Well, Mike, I think we can let Craig take off if we want to.
We're good. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, we appreciate your time.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
We will
go Lady Indians.
Yep. We'll wish Craig good luck with the season. We're going to be hearing lots of good things about him, and we'll let him bail out on this call, and we will. Mike and I have got plenty of other basketball to talk about, but again, Craig Carr, coach of the Altamont girls basketball team, and listen to that game on the radio tomorrow night. They're going to be playing St. Anthony, and that's a big contest, and they're going to win all ball games this year before it's all said and done. And glad to have you on, Craig.
Thanks, fellas.
Good luck, Craig.
All right. So we'll let Craig get on with his evening. And Mike, busy week of basketball. I got to see all three of the boys teams that
The Holy Trinity this weekend.
Yeah, I saw Effingham Thursday. I saw them beat Taylorville. Saw St. Anthony beat North Clay Friday night, and saw T-Town take a loss to Tolano Unity last night, Saturday night. I'll tell you, I don't know where we want to start, but we can just go in order. Effingham, they got that win over Taylorville a Thursday night boys conference game. They beat Taylorville 39-35. They also played yesterday.
Marion.
Yeah, down in Marion. It's Marion. Marion has the shootout, but they actually did play Marion. Marion got them, beat them pretty handily, but and Casey got them on Tuesday. Now Casey Westfield's one of the better 1A teams in the state, and I know Obi kind of felt like he wasn't necessarily real happy with that game, but the win over Taylorville is a conference win, and what I saw in that was that that zone that Effingham has been playing all year long. They play this 3-2 zone, and people have a little trouble figuring out how to deal with it. They're playing it pretty well. It's unconventional, and some teams will figure it out eventually, but usually, the Hearts will get them off balance in the first quarter. Taylorville never figured it out. Taylorville just decided they were going to shoot 3-pointers all night long, and it did work out for them for a stretch there in the second half, but mostly it didn't. They only scored 34 points, and the Hearts got a second win on the year, and they're 1-0 in Apollo Conference play, and they've got Mattoon this week, a chance to get another one there. So I thought kind of a mixed bag for Effingham, but defensively they played really well Thursday night when I saw them.
Yeah, and you're talking about that 3-2. It's like the 1-2-2 just kind of squashed down a little bit on top.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of takes a little more away of that high post. I know teams like to try to attack a 1-2-2 through that high post, and it kind of takes that away. It's a different look, and it's not a look you see a lot, and I think that's why you'll have people struggle a little bit with it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I think Obi's doing it out of necessity. He doesn't have a lot of size. Got a little quickness. They can do some things. I mean, he's trying to, create some points out of his defense a little bit with that, and they'll extend and they'll trap a little bit and do some things. So, it's just a work in progress, and we'll see. I mean, and Effingham's so reliant on how well they shoot the ball again, because they're limited right now, with being able to, come down sometimes and pound the ball inside to people.
Yes.
So, it is what it is. It's going to keep you hanging around in games a lot, I think, as teams slowly adapt to it.
Yeah. You talk about one of the bigger players they've got is Ethan Jones, and I wanted to give him a quick shout out just because I thought that against Taylorville, he probably played his best game of the season, and he scored 9 points, but it's not really about the points. It's not really about the scoring. I mean, some of the scoring was a result of other nice things he was doing, hitting the offensive glass, attacking the basket, but he also defends hard. He's a gritty player. He gets after it. Doesn't worry about the how do I want to put this diplomatically? Like he plays with a little chip on his shoulder sometimes, I feel like, and you need a guy like that. Like every team needs a player like that to kind of get the other team frustrated at times.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you got to do everything within the scope of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Getting under people's skin defensively,
it's an art.
Is an art, but it's a timing art.
Yeah. You got to do
I mean,
it.
as a coach, I had a kid doing it to us with a 97-40 lead. And I was
Yeah.
like, hey,
Yeah. Sure.
I can
There's,
bring these guys back in off the bench. If you want to all of a sudden here be this way, I literally told the kid during a timeout or a dead ball, he was standing in front of my bench.
yeah.
I
Yeah. Like I
appreciate the
said,
effort, but
there's a time and a place for it, right? I mean, you want it to be you don't want it to be a sledgehammer that they're using. They need to.
right. No. And that's the thing. I mean, the good thing is the kids are pushing, they're playing hard. You know, young group, I mean, they relying really heavily on their sophomores,
They do.
and they're getting baptism by fire.
And some of those kids are responding really well to it. I mean, Cannon Bockhorn's going to score a lot of points for Effingham by the time his career is done because right now he's forced into that scoring role. He's a sophomore, but he's one of those guys who's willing to put that shot up. He's willing to
Right.
to be a scorer, and you've got some other guys that are willing to pull the trigger, and they'll get better. They'll get better as that opportunity comes their way more and more often. But I said it last week and I'll say it again. I like the way Effingham plays. I like what how they go about their business. You know, sometimes you're going to come up against some pretty solid, tough competition, and you're not necessarily going to get the win, but they're certainly comporting themselves very well. And lots of credit to the staff there and the boys for what they're doing. But St. Anthony, St. Anthony can't they can't get all five of their starters on the floor at the same time for one reason or another.
Well, yeah, I heard. I kind of heard an interesting story about Salem because I know you reached out to me about Colin Westendorf wasn't playing, and he was on the bus.
Yes.
And got off the bus and was walking into school and may have lost a little lunch between the bus and school.
It was to the point where, like he was written in as a starter and then had to be a very, very last minute change. So he was there. Didn't make it into the game at all.
I don't think he made it into the building, Whitey.
Is that right?
That's what I heard from one of my sources said that he didn't make it in, didn't even make it in the building.
I talked to Cody about it and he didn't give me every gory detail. But I kind of did.
A friend of the show passed along some gory details too.
Okay. And then Colin was but St. Anthony won that game 42-38. I'll get back to that in a minute because it's kind of an interesting game. And then the next night, Max Koenig was out sick. So you got Ryan Schmidt finally back in the starting lineup. He didn't start at Salem, but he played a lot and made some really important buckets for them down the stretch, free throws and buckets for them. And then he started against North Clay, so they got him back in there. And then Koenig wasn't available. So Brady Hatton's been the big winner in all this. Every time somebody's hurt, Schmidt's hurt, Koenig's out of the lineup for this reason or that, Westendorf's sick. Well, then Brady gets the start.
Minutes become available. You've only got so many minutes. When people take minutes, they now become available. It gives Brady Hatton a chance to get a little more time in.
And he's doing a good job.
I'm pretty sure Loretson maybe missed a little time too in there. Maybe
could be.
I think rolled an ankle in there. And rumor has it possibly that the Louisville game, Coach Rinker was a little under the weather. So I think it's kind of going through their system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and Effingham had that going on too because Obi was not feeling great toward the end of the Thanksgiving tournament. I know Wade Busher was not available against Taylorville. I don't know. I haven't seen any numbers on the games yesterday, whether Wade played in that or not. But it's certainly been a story. But so St. Anthony beat Salem 42-38. They were down. Salem scored 16 points in the first quarter. They had a kid who couldn't miss a three-pointer, and St. Anthony was down early. But then Salem scored its last point of that game with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Went ahead 38-36, I think it was. And again, Ryan Schmidt he scored some huge points for them, including at the free throw line down the stretch, and they were able to kind of sneak out of there with a win. Cody said he'd never coached. I think he'd never coached at Salem's gym before. He said it's kind of an interesting place to play. I've heard
Yeah,
that.
I've seen teams not shoot the ball there very well before, especially on the end. Well, the balcony end, oh well, St. Anthony's
Right.
got a balcony. No, not like
Not the
Salem's.
same. It's not the
Not
same.
the same. And then having the open stage on the other end, that's almost, and it's open. Salem seems to be, when that curtain's open, it just seems bigger than bigger than Altamont. I don't know that it is. If you went out there with the tape measure, probably the same. But it seems bigger.
Well, Greg Sapp would be disappointed in me if I did not at least throw out his theory that BE Gum Gym is haunted. He believes that there's some sort of a supernatural force that comes into play in a lot of games there. So Greg,
Well, I always heard the same thing about the golf gym, that Father Golf sometimes helped ease balls off the rim. People would swear by that. So
I wish he could have made
usually
a
when
little more
people
room in the
visit
bleachers.
gyms and maybe their success is sporadic, then they come up with reasons why.
North Clay, St. Anthony. Okay, so St. Anthony beats North Clay 70-38, and that sounds like a whooping, right?
Pretty good game at the half, wasn't it?
It was a tight game at the half. It was a single digit margin at the half. North Clay played extremely well. Okay, I want to get that out there first. They were without Cody Zemdars, who was their. They haven't played a lot of games, so they expect him to be their leading scorer or one of their
two, probably.
Yeah, probably. He wasn't there. He messed up his shoulder in their season opener against Cumberland and hasn't played since. They're hoping to get him back next week. But admittedly, going into that game, I'm thinking, okay, they don't have their main guy, who by the way is only a sophomore. They're a young team, okay. And I'm just thinking this may not be a close game, but man, did they compete? They played well. They took care of things. Jesse Widener hit some big shots for them. They played with confidence despite the fact that there is some inexperience, because even their seniors didn't play a lot last year didn't play like prime minutes because of the guys that were ahead of them. I thought they played extremely well. I was proud of the effort that Josh's boys put out there. But in the end, St. Anthony warmed down in the second half. St. Anthony shot like almost 80% in the second half and shared the basketball really well. It's easy to shoot a high percentage when you get a lot of good looks, because guys are feeding each other across the lane and setting each other up for layups and stuff like that. So, but they were also hitting some jumpers. They just really couldn't miss anything. And that's what you want to see out of St. Anthony. We talked about how they had lots of scorers coming back, but you got to find the balance, right? You got to keep everybody happy. Everybody's got to be on the same page, and they got to be playing the team's game and not their game. Well, especially for that night, that's what I saw. You got 15 out of Schmidt, 14 out of Westendorf, 14 out of Fearday, 10 out of Hatton, right? Like, that's beautiful if you're a coach, right? You love to see that kind of thing.
Yep, share the juice.
They had assists on, off the top of my head, I don't remember, but it was like 16 assists on 24 field goals or something like that. So maybe more field goals than that, but more than half of their field goals, something of that nature. So very, very good for them. For T-Town, their only game last week was yesterday. They had Unity come in. They hadn't played since the Capital Classic. So they come into that game 3-1, but haven't played for a week. And, Unity was solid, and you expect that, right? Like,
I was told Unity's actually sneaky good.
Yeah. They went both teams went deep. Both teams had 10 guys come into the game at certain points, but Unity had 9 of them score. So they were a handful And Garrett Gaddis scored 19. Joey Nieberge had a really nice game. He kind of, they were clearly trying to cover Gaddis up early. I mean, you're the leading scorer. People are going to start focusing on you. And so Joey, I thought, took the bull by the horn, so to speak, in the first half and attacked the basket, made some buckets. Gaddis eventually got his points because he does and he will. But I think for T-Town, the question that still is getting answered and is a work in progress is, after Gaddis, after Nieberge, who's it going to come from?
Well, and the scoring, and they've got some kids who are not bashful about shooting, but I think it becomes a case if they get a couple looks early and miss, they don't want to shoot anymore. And that becomes an issue, I think, when you've got to find more points. And that's a big thing, we've talked about on here, we talked about going in, finding consistent offense from other kids, and that's going to be their big thing. I mean, I know they've got some young kids who are getting a little time. It's they got some kids who are they're okay inside, but sometimes they're not the biggest kid inside, so they aren't as productive. 6'2", I can play the post. That's fine until you play someone 6'5", who's going to limit what you can do. So I think that's kind of Chet's mission this year is to find that consistent offense from people other than Gaddis and Nieberge. And let's face it, last year, if Brendan Nieberge was having an off night or really getting bottled up, or somebody really slowed Seamer or Jimmer Nieberge, they also struggled scoring points last year. And then the Garrett Gaddises of the world kind of started picking up the slack for them, especially second half of the season. So I think they've just got to, they've got to find a couple kids, be a little more productive, be a little more confident taking some shots when they're available.
And these are not issues that are unique to T-Town in the first couple weeks of the season.
You're exactly
clear,
right.
Almost every program across the state is dealing with this in one fashion or another, to varying degrees, of course, but everybody's still answering questions, right? You've played 5 games now. So,
and I think the biggest difference there is, Whitey, you look at scores, and it's funny, I look at scores from all the teams in our Christmas tournament, and you see a lot of early, see a few early lopsided games. Well, UConn doesn't have that luxury really on their schedule to have very many of those type games. They're pushed. Their schedule's, probably second to none. I think Aaron Britton told us, strength of schedule, they're, predominantly a top 4, top 5 strength of schedule in 2A every year. So, they have to get things worked out on the fly. It's not like, hey, we've got Team A and Team B. These are going to be a couple games. We go out and do the things we're supposed to do. We're going to win handily, and we're going to get a little confidence going with the Dustin Whites and the Mike Wilsons of the world, who aren't normally scorers, and maybe get them to be able to take a couple shots and get some confidence. Chet didn't have that luxury.
Well, now
it's
Mike,
a grinder. He's in a meat grinder all the time.
Mike, the only thing I was ever good at was shooting the basketball.
You were a shooter, not a maker, Whitey.
Yeah, no. I could but the other stuff you have to do. The problem is that they don't just leave you open. I don't, that was a problem for me. But T-Town's they go to Paris this week, and then they got Bloomington Central Catholic coming in.
Bloomington Central Catholic, though, does not have Cole Serta anymore. He transferred down to IMG Academy. Yeah,
they've dropped.
They're still pretty good.
5 games so far, so it's hard to know what they've played. Paris, Paris has been in a tough spot lately. They're 1-5 on the year, so a chance for a chance for the boys to, especially that Paris game, hopefully they get a chance to work on some things. And,
Got to go to Paris. They're at Paris though. That's
it's a long trip,
yeah,
It's not a fun gym to play in anymore either. Okay. Back in the
I
Evening
like Ernie Evelyn gym. I like that.
Yeah, but now their gym it's big. You can put a lot
Yeah.
of people in there, but it doesn't have any kind of personality to it. It's
No
just
atmosphere.
no, it's just, and that's the thing. Like, Effingham and St. Anthony, they've got big gyms too, but I still feel like there's atmosphere is the right word,
But they both are about this far away from the atmosphere in their old gyms.
Well,
I'll tell you what, golf gym, St. Anthony T-Town game, you can sit block away and listen to the crowd.
I know. I was always kind of apprehensive about going to those games because, like, man, you'd have to squeeze in but there's good memories to be had there too, right? Being shoulder to shoulder and
on the old Effingham gym that gets you down there in the pit.
Yep.
Yep,
that's true.
You had to know how to bounce off those concrete walls because now they got padding a lot of places. Back in the day, they didn't have padding.
Switching gears now to our girls teams. Effingham's girls, they had a tight one. Let's see, they had a busy week. They went to Taylorville. Craig kind of mentioned that, got beat by 10 points. I don't think that was their first loss of the season. They had been 5-0 to that point. Nothing wrong with losing to Taylorville. Taylorville's having a good year, and they're going to have a good year. Bounced back and went to Mount Vernon Thursday night and got a win by 2 points, 65-63. And then they went to North Clay yesterday, and nothing against North Clay, but just where their programs are at. That's a bit of a tune-up game for Effingham. Beat them by almost 50 points. So they're 7-1. They're going to win a bunch of games this year. Craig mentioned that too when we were talking to him, and really they're getting contributions up and down. They have got just a number of kids that can go off any given night, and that's just going to be tough for people to deal with. Sydney Donaldson got 17 points for them at Mount Vernon, for instance, and she's capable of doing that, but she scored 4 the previous night. But that was okay because Alyssa Martin scored 12 and Bella Austin scored 13 in that game. It was nice to see Bella Austin get up there with that. And Avery Wolf against Mount Vernon, she scored 14 points after Taylorville held her scoreless. So there's just, if it's not there for one person, someone else can step up, and ultimately you're going to win a lot more than you lose that way.
And that's where your depth really comes in handy. It really does. You've got someone stepping up and scoring on those nights. It's a double-edged sword, but
yeah. Notable of that Mount Vernon game was, and this is, I promise you, I'm not, this is trying to compliment Alyssa Martin, but that was her first game this year where she didn't get into double figures. She scored 7 against Mount Vernon. She had been up in double figures every time. So, she kind of got, Jeff kind of put her in there, not right away last year, but started giving her some varsity tick as the season went by, and she responded well to it. And she's really emerging for them. I'm excited to get a look at what she's doing this year whenever we get a chance. But T-Town's girls, they got a win. They'd been off for a while. They didn't after their tournament down at Centralia, they didn't play for a little bit, but they finally got one in against Benton. They played Benton Thursday, beat them by 5, scored 74 points. That was the big thing to me. Scored 74 points. The results early in the season had kind of shown them not necessarily putting up a lot of numbers. And we know that Lori was sort of having to figure out where her scoring was going to come from this year too. But I thought winning a tight game and putting that many points on the board is a good sign for the Lady Shoes. And then they beat Alney yesterday. So they got a couple of wins this week.
A couple wins, and again, Lori's got she lost a lot of experience, a lot of points, and she said, here on the show, it's really going to be learning. We've got to figure out who can do this. When I see Millie's stats in the paper, I'm looking at their games and looking where their points are coming from. I look at, various schools and just kind of see where their points coming from, because some schools are going to be have a harder time scoring than others.
Yeah. I mean, they had Chloe Probst has been very solid for them so far, just in terms of putting points on the board. I haven't seen them yet, so I can only look at those box scores like you're talking about. But
right.
It's nice to see some other kids go off a little bit. Malia Helmink had a big game against Benton. Summer Wall, who hadn't scored much at all, had a big game against Benton. That was nice. And again, it's not like sometimes those point totals can be a little deceiving, because like if you thump somebody, you're going to be you know what I'm saying? Like the minutes might be against their second team or something like that.
Sure.
But in a 5-point game, I mean, obviously those points are coming in crunch time because it's a close game. So there's that's encouraging to see for them. They've got Paris this week, or no, they've got Pena this week. And normally that's a circle it on the calendar type of game, but Pena is really Pena is struggling this year.
They graduated a lot of kids. I did their them and the T-Town sectional game last year, and they were pretty senior heavy.
Yeah,
back then.
Well, they're 2 wins against 8 losses so far this year. So I don't imagine Pena has been in that boat in a long time. And you look at their scores, and it's not like they're just getting clipped by people. They're some of the better teams they faced have handled them pretty one-sidedly. In fact, that only team that T-Town just beat by 30 some points yesterday only beat Pena by 13 earlier this year. So, not guaranteeing a win. I don't get in the business of guaranteeing,
but any given day.
I think the Lady Shoes might be able to get one there, and we will hope for that for them. I'm just looking to see who else they've got this week. At St. Joseph Ogden this week also. Don't know much about them, but apparently they're 2-2. That's all I can tell you. St. Anthony, obviously they've got a big game. The St. Anthony girls have got a big game tomorrow night, Monday night, against Altamont. That's a huge game in the National Trail schedule, coming early in the year. But they went to Okaw Valley this week and got an easy win there. Had Windsor Stew Straws come in Thursday night, and Windsor Stew is, they're a solid NTC team, right? They're going to win plenty of ball games, and Lady Bulldogs got them by 24 points, 72-48. Stacy Vonderheide and Nancy Ruhal. Ruhal has averaged 24.6 points per game so far for St. Anthony. They are 7-1 on the year, and Ruhal's and Vonderheide's right behind her at 22. And I mean, it's not like, and they're consistently. I mean, Ruhal's already had 2 30-point games, and 3 30-point games, because she had 37, 37, and 30 in a game, and then Vonderheide's always just in the 20s with one exception. So. That's a really nice little tandem for them, but it
1-2 punch.
Yeah, and again, they've got other kids, right? Like I do notice, and I don't know exactly what the story with Addie Nuxall is, but she hasn't played in a little while. She's some of the size that they've got on that team, right. And so I noticed that she, as far as I can tell, hasn't played since the Thanksgiving tournament against Mount Carmel. So we'll have to ask Aaron Rios about that when we broadcast that game tomorrow. But listen, St. Anthony is that's a huge NTC game for them tomorrow night. I think there's other teams that can figure into that conversation, but it's,
Yeah, but you've got those 2 penciled in near the top. I mean, you've got other schools who are there and on a given night can really step up. But I think this is your measuring stick. You can probably pencil these guys in playing again in the NTC tournament, much like St. Anthony and Neoga last year. I mean, you had other schools there, but I think in the end it's hard for some other schools to do it night in, night out. So
Yeah.
yeah, good ball game. It'll have postseason ramifications right off the chute on how things go with with seedings and such.
And St. Anthony's got CHBC later this week too, and I mean
Yeah.
they're having they're off to a decent start as well. They've won some ball games, so it's a big week for St. Anthony. But we'll see how that goes. Effingham, I didn't mention who Effingham plays this week. The Effingham girls have got Mattoon coming in on Thursday night, and that's going to be a test. Mattoon girls haven't lost yet. They played Normal U-High yesterday, and I don't know how that turned out, but I know Normal U-High is struggling, so I'm going to guess Mattoon's 6-0 at this point. That's going to be a tough test, and then Muhammad comes in on Friday, so that's playing back-to-back nights is always an interesting challenge too.
Sure.
Conference
Right.
games. So I think that covers the Effingham and St. Anthony and T-Town triumvirate, so to speak. I'm just kind of looking at some of the other games. Anything particularly interesting that's going on? I think North Clay at Diederich. Oh wait a minute, that's a girls' game. Sorry. Not that North Clay at Diederich might not be a good girls' game, but Diederich's girls are off to a really great start. North Clay's got that Ballard girls getting some looks from some people, so that could be an interesting matchup. But I'm looking at the boys' game. Altamont goes to Newton on Tuesday.
That'd be a good ball game. Newton got pretty well got their clock playing Breeze Central.
Yeah, they
did. Again, I haven't talked to Troy. I don't know if he had everybody healthy. I know Breeze Central is really good.
Yes. And that was I'm scrolling down here. That was Newton's first loss. They had won the Cumberland tournament at Thanksgiving, beat Casey in the championship game, which is a nice little feather in the cap type of game, I think. Beat Paris rather easily. But yeah, you're right. Breeze Central got them by almost 30. So I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, but they fell out of the ranks of our unbeaten teams still alive in the Christmas tournament. So
yeah, but
we're down to 3. Well, we're actually 4, I should say. We got 4 unbeaten teams. So.
Was that was a shootout of some kind too, right? That was
I think it was at Mount Vernon, maybe.
You're right. That's correct. It was at Mount Vernon. Yep. I need you to jog my memory there, but that's right.
It's usually the other way around, Whitey. I'm a little concerned.
Altamont always they don't play in a Thanksgiving tournament, so like they haven't played as many games as Newton has, but they haven't lost yet. They are let's see, they're 3-0. They beat Nokomis. They went to Cumberland and won. They beat Vandalia.
Right.
This will be their biggest test by a pretty significant margin. So I'd be curious just to see how they stand out. Like Altamont's got a lot of seniors. That's the thing. Like they got a half dozen seniors on that team, which is funny because they had so many last year. So they're
that was the thing. You knew you had 2 good classes back to back.
Yep. And so I think that'll just be a good measuring stick game for them. However it turns out, however it goes, they'll kind of find out a lot about themselves there. I think that's about it. I think that's all I really wanted.
That's a good place to put a bow on it, Whitey.
Yeah, because we've been going for a while. We've been going for a while. We started with Craig. I actually
before 7.
Yeah, I flipped on my Zoom, and he was already there waiting. So I got a hold of you, and we got going. But I like Craig. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to him as much as you obviously have over the years. But he brings a good energy to that Altamont program, and I'm going to be excited to see him on the sideline tomorrow. That's going to be
Hey, Whitey.
Yes,
I'm bringing in the left-hander to finish up real quick for me. I'm pulling an audible. This is Trial by Fire. You're talking to the brains of the house for a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, what are we supposed to talk about, Morgan?
I don't know. You can just keep talking, and I'll just listen, and I'll nod and agree.
Well, this is. I wish I'd had a chance to prepare. Mike, he has mentioned that we should try to get you on the radio sometime, and I'm curious what you even think about that. Is that like something you even want to do, or is he putting words in your mouth there?
I mean, I'm not opposed. Right now I don't have a voice, it's coming back, but I'm not opposed.
Yeah,
I
that's what.
just don't know how much I know to add to a ball game, or I don't know. I don't think I'm giving myself enough credit. I think I could be like I know enough to get me through, but I don't know.
Well, let me tell you something. No, you don't have to know anything to be on there. I am living proof of that. You mostly just have to talk like you do. You just got to
Oh,
pretend.
I'm really good at that.
Well, and I think you come by it pretty naturally.
Yeah.
But no greater news that an elementary school student can hear though than teachers losing her voice. Not
Uh-huh.
losing it, or is it coming back?
Oh, it's coming back.
Ah, man.
It last week was awful, and my kids are like, "You don't sound good." I said, "I feel fine, but we can't talk so loud because I can't talk over you anymore." No, it's coming back. So,
Now the Christmas tournament's coming up, and
yes.
your dad always pulls you into duty here. Is it ramping up? Is that all we're talking about around the house right now?
Yes and no. I mean, it is ramping up, and I'm solely in charge of adding teams and rosters and everything to the website. I
Yes.
work with Imagine This on that,
Mhm.
and but when it comes down to putting all the info on the website, that's me, and that can be very overwhelming and a lot of work, and I don't think other people realize how much time it takes to update a website, to
Mhm.
just it's I mean, it's not easy just to I can't just input the information like on an Excel sheet and then press a button and it's all on there.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
So it's a work in progress. It's something I've learned over the years. But yeah, I mean we're in our 10th year and I've been part of it for all 10 years. So
And you get well compensated for it, right? I mean, there's a
oh, I've heard so many stories. With being the only female on the board right now, I get all the compliments. But yeah, it's a good group of people to work with, and it's it's a fun time. It really is, and it's something added to my resume. I know since it includes the school I teach in, I can add that as a activity that I help with, which is nice. And I definitely learn a lot and learn things that I probably shouldn't from some of these guys, but it's all good.
yeah. I mean, listen, it's it's probably good that they include you, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like they can't talk, can't speak openly. Now you go to a game and we're broadcasting it, and Mackenzie White shows up and comes over and sits by you. Do you get a word in edgewise the rest of the night,
No,
or is it just
no,
in the listen mode?
she sits there and I love Mackenzie. Sometimes yeah, we're still recording. Sometimes I don't remember what she tells me sometimes because it's all over the board and it's, you only have to ask her one question and
Mhm.
she will talk for a really long time.
That's what they always used to say about interviewing Ken Crawford. Just
I
ask him
know,
one
I was just
question,
gonna
then
say
let him
that.
go. Uh,
Yes.
she's the same way. She's in love with the sound of her voice. So
Yes. And it I can't knock it because that's how I was as a kid. So
yeah.
I kind of look at that as that's my penance. I just kind of gotta I'm bound to run into someone just like me someday before I start having kids. So I just will get used to it.
All right. All right. Well, I think it's about time to wrap this up. Is Mike
Yeah.
gonna jump back in here? How are we gonna
No,
we're
he's handed off the reins for
he's
tonight.
all right. Well, we've been going for like an hour and a half. So,
Yeah, I know. I've cooked dinner. I've ate my dinner and I've put my dinner away. So
all
it's been
right.
a long time.
Well, now we know that, if your dad's ever incapacitated, the show will go on.
Yes,
We'll still record on Sunday nights. We'll get it taken care of. So,
absolutely.
All right. Well, tell your dad, tell your dad, we will talk next week. And I'm guessing I might see you around sometime this week. We'll be at Effingham
Yes.
this week. So
Yep.
sounds good.
I will be around.
All right. Take it easy, Morgan.
See ya.